Chapter 3 of Glitz and Glory may not be everyone's choice of favorite chapter, but it's certainly mine, and honestly, I think it's my favorite in the entire franchise. After a Pikmin-like adventure in the not Great Deku Tree, Mario's magical map highlights the floating island in the sky of Glitzville, called Oolong Town in Japanese, as the next destination. It's a Chinese-inspired tourist town with the Glitz Pit as its main attraction, a UFC-style fighting arena, although weapons like Mario's hammer are allowed, drawing in all kinds of clamoring combatants, clawing their way to the top to try and become the next champion. On the surface, Glitzville attracts families who travel there to casually enjoy the matches, but behind the scenes, the richest people in the world wager on the bouts. The fighters are all very distinct, from Crawdaddy, the dark gatekeeper who's basically the Undertaker, claiming he'll drag you through the gate to the Netherworld, to Rawk, the current champion. It's worth mentioning that he's called Hawk Hogan in the GameCube Spanish Nintendo of Europe translation. As for the English version, Rawk. It sounds like there's a joke there, but I just can't think of anything. Knock knock, who's there? Rawk sucks. Rawk sucks who? Rawk sucks Rawk. Anyway, he's a big gold bird rocking a big gold belt, with one of the 7 crystal stars Mario must collect as its buckle. Or so it seems. I wanted to steal the belt from him to check, but Goombella tells me that's wrong, so we must do it the fair, albeit hard way, by joining the league, becoming a fighter, and working our way up the ranks to eventually challenge him for the grand prize. Simply getting to Glitzville is quite the affair though, as we can't just sprout wings and fly up there, as Flurry lovingly makes clear. And if a floating cloud lady / wind spirit can't do it, then I guess we're out of luck. Nah, there's a direct flight from Rogueport in a special cheap blimp, but according to Frankly, the only way to secure a seat is through certain channels. Apparently, all tickets go through Don Pianta, the leader of the Pianta Syndicate I talked about in the last video, who makes regular jaunts over to Glitzville, but frankly warns that the rumors about him are scary. He makes crying babies weep after all. Thankfully, the Don sympathizes with Mario's plight to rescue a girl he's gone gaga for, and agrees to hand over a blimp ticket in exchange for, a favor that he must do right away. So don't worry, Mario won't be called upon for a later service indeterminately.
Someday, and that day may never come, I'll call upon you to do a service for me.
There's just a warning that Mario's luck may turn terrible if he fails to find the Don's daughter, who's skipping town to elope with one of his own associates. After finding and meeting with the runaway couple, you can humorously go back to the big man's office and decline to tell him their whereabouts, which will result in him getting furious, threatening that they're going to need a mop to pick up what's left of Mario for refusing him. Nevertheless, the lovers come rushing in to open up their hearts, which feels like a poison mushroom in the gut of the Dawn, as Francesca reportedly used up her last favor long ago, and Frankie's scolded for this being the way he repays his debt. The lovebirds are ultimately given his blessing, but it gradually causes the Dawn to become sick with worry, so Mario will have to help the family again soon enough. Yes, Mario actually becomes a friend of the Mafia in this game. With that apparent soap opera dealt with, we must now sign a contract to start a new life as a rookie in the minor league. Grubba, the Glitz Pit promoter, explains how as a poor pup, he didn't give a Poke's patoot for the big city, but he soon found himself motivated by the world of martial arts and fought his way to fame and fortune. He's since retired from participating in matches, but he earned enough from his glory days to be set for life, and encourages Mario to similarly shoot for the stars while he's still in his prime. Because, Mario is 24 to 25 years old, apparently. Grubba very funnily gives our young hero a tour of the gaudy Champions Suite and the respectable Major League locker room, but not the Minor League one, because it's dirty and dilapidated. Oh well, can't take back that signature now. The contract is binding, and Mario cannot quit until Grubba releases him. Grubba coins the name The Great Gonzalez, not to be confused with the WWF wrestler Giant Gonzalez, and Jolene, his manager, shows the up-and-comer to his dingy room, where we meet and befriend a couple of fellow scrubs named King K and Bandy Andy. The former loves to hang out by the lockers and chat after bouts in the ring, but the latter prefers to take regular strolls around the Glitz pit, which lands him in some seriously hot water later. For now, Jolene reprimands him for his curiosity about that room, reinforcing the fact that it's off limits. He, also follows Jolene, and sadly she seems to be used to that sort of thing because she'll inform Mario if he talks to her in between instructions that she doesn't date fighters. The money goes right back out the door immediately after she leaves, of course. The first real indication that there's something suspicious at play here, though, is an incident we can overhear through the thin walls of the locker room. King K shrugs it off as just some poor fighter being carted off to the hospital, but there's a voice that calmly tells the victim to keep quiet, and another asking if they've got a gag for them. Lucky for us, we know a guy who's investigating curiosities of the pit already he calls the 7 Wonders of the Glitz Pit. It's based on common Japanese urban legends / ghost stories that deal with supernatural mysteries occurring in sets of 7. Apparently, the pit has rumors and secrets in spades, but the 7 Wonders are the most peculiar. The sealed wall in the minor league locker room we can break into later is disturbingly said to contain the remains of fallen athletes. The man-eating toilet is exactly what it sounds like. A porcelain throne that's reportedly the last thing you'll ever see if you gaze upon it. That's creepy, since the only bathroom we know about in the pit is the one in the Major League locker room, which is almost always occupied. The truth is, though, that the toilet's actually a man-eater because it acts as a warp pipe, allowing one to slyly and unhygienically travel between rooms. My hunch is that the horror angle was spread on purpose to make others fear the restroom, so that a certain person could sneak around the building, something I'll get into in a bit. Another wonder is an upstairs room where groaning voices come from, with no stairs to reach it, or at least stairs that aren't visible. Using Madame Flurry's wind power, we can reveal the hidden steps and climb up to the 2nd floor that's used to lock up fighters who don't follow the rules. The Champions Room is also a supposedly haunted place where you can reportedly hear the ghost whispers of athletes who lost to the champion, but the reality is that it's right next to Grubba's office, and anyone speaking from there can be heard in this room via the air ducts. Next is a strange light leaking under the ring doors when the arena's thought to be empty, but no one's been able to see inside because the doors are always locked. Bandy Andy plans to look into this one firsthand, which doesn't end well for him. Then there's the case of missing fighters who disappear for no reason, never to return. The most famous instance of this happening is with Prince Mush, the original champion of the Glitz Pit before Rawk claimed the title. Lastly, we have suspicions surrounding Grubba and Jolene. The big boss has a strangely toned body, despite being past 60 years of age, and his assistant suddenly vanishes for long periods of time. A fighter claims that they once watched Jolene go into the bathroom, but never saw her come out. And yes, it's addressed that watching someone go to the bathroom is creepier. This brings me back to my theory about the man-eating toilet. Since one is able to discreetly warp between bathrooms, and Jolene disappears often, I have a feeling that she's using this unsanitary method to sneak around the building undetected. The chapter smartly sets up Jolene as the nefarious one, which is brilliant because it takes the edge away from Grubba, who is otherwise the obvious person to suspect is up to no good. Jolene, the rude executive, Rawk, the narcissistic champ, or Grubba, the greasy, smooth-talking promoter. At least one of them is guilty of fishy business, so the goal of this chapter is to solve a greater mystery, all while working your way up to the top. King K mentions a stunning babe having a family-friendly juice at the fresh juice shop and asks Mario to check her out for him, but all she seems to be concerned about is Prince Mush. Now, I'm probably just dumb, because despite all of the clues, I somehow did not initially realize that this lady is Jolene. I mean, technically it's only ever alluded to, but going back to the juice bar after finishing chapter 3 and speaking with her is as close to confirmation without spelling it out completely as you can get. She says, "Who am I, you ask?" You don't know? I'm someone you know quite well, actually. When I go outside the arena, I like to cut loose and shed my other personality. How can she seemingly be in 2 places at once? Well, bathroom transportation, of course. There are instances that stretch believability, where she's suddenly back at the pit in her business attire when she was just seen at the juice bar moments ago. But unlike the other NPCs in here who never move from these spots, This lady is gone during times where it really wouldn't make sense for her to be there. One example of that is taking on her trouble post Chapter 3. Before re-registering to be a fighter in the pit, Jolene can be spoken to at any time in the juice shop. However, accepting her trouble means meeting at her office. So, what do you know? Mysterious juice bar lady is missing. Now that it's established they are the same person, we know Jolene is going undercover, but not for anything criminal. As I just hinted at, she's doing it to find information about her missing brother by any means necessary. At the end of the chapter, Jolene explains that she suspected foul play in the arena as soon as Mush went missing, so she got herself hired as the manager and investigated in secret. In searching for clues about her brother, she accidentally witnessed Grubba transforming, and realized he was behind her sibling's disappearance. Seeing what she was up against, Jolene almost gave up hope, but when Mario appeared like an overalls-wearing knight, she knew after watching him fight that he was the only one who had a chance at defeating her boss, and decided to secretly guide him to learn Grubba's secret via mysterious emails sent by the name X. And receiving these emails is genuinely creepy because of a combination of three things. Number 1. The notification sound is the already unsettling Ice World theme from Super Mario Bros. 3. Number 2. The identity of the sender is unknown at the time. And number 3. The message is sent without a subject, composed entirely of randomly capitalized text in the vein of ransom notes. Also eerie are threatening emails to stop investigating the Crystal Star, sent by a separate anonymous party we're led to believe is Rawk. But it is of course Grubba. So what exactly did he do to Mush? Well, he's had that real gold crystal star hidden beneath the arena stage all along, activating it when no one's around to power a machine that drains the essence of fighters he has no other use for. I can see this act being a metaphor for the ways in which the entertainment industry sucks the life out of its talent, but to an exaggerated degree, as Grubba is doing that in a more literal sense. This keeps Grubba's body looking forever young, but when the machine's cranked to the max, it can juice the fiend up and transform him into Macho Grubba. The cutscene building up this fight is incredible, especially with the ominous dynamic lighting of the Switch version. The Jumbotron displaying nothing but static in this scene is a perfect atmospheric touch. Anyway, like our unfortunate friends King K and Bandy Andy, Grubba caught Mush learning the secret of his power-sucking machine, and likely figured it was way too risky to trust that he'd keep quiet. So Grubba decided to sap all of the former champ's energy, presumably killing him. The Crystal Star is a miraculous thing though, so when the powered-up Grubba falls, Prince Mush's spirit descends from within the gem and his body is restored. Now, I like this sequence much better than the funny-looking original, where he was just kind of farted out from the machine. By comparison, I almost teared up during this moment of the remake. The new rendition of the music box song that plays here and during a certain very emotional moment involving Bobbery did not help. With this new scene in mind, my interpretation of what happened is that his body truly did vanish, but his fighting spirit was so strong that he persisted, and so the Crystal Star was able to revive him to his former state. Before King K and Bandy Andy had their power drained too, Prince Mush was the only named fighter known to have gone missing. But there are rumors of more, so who knows how many other victims Grubba's claimed before Mario stops him. I think Mario discovered our favorite minor league fighters just in time as well, because while they were left alive underneath this giant yellow block, they were just barely hanging in there. Bandy Andy struggled immensely just to warn him about not going near the ring when no one's around in between groans of pain, and King K couldn't even speak at all. Bandy's last words in this condition were, "I don't think I'm going to make it." They are ultimately okay in the end, but being on the verge of death like this implies to me that Grubba either left them here to die, pressed at the bottom of an immovable block, or, more likely, kept them hidden temporarily until it was time to drain them again. And maybe one more session would have caused their physical bodies to disappear into the machine like Mush. There were even flies buzzing around them in the GameCube version. Speaking of, I'm not sure why the remake has an aversion to flies. They were also removed from this bandit's hideaway that was in all other respects made considerably more revolting in HD. Okay, I am now going to speak about the very first special boss you're able to fight that's exclusive to the remake. If you're someone watching who's already played the original, but not this new version, this spoiler warning goes for you too. With that said, a major question still remains. How was Rawk able to defeat the former champion Prince Mush? And Grubba, for that matter, even when powered up? Before answering that, I want to figure out what exactly he's capable of. Upon clearing Chapter 3, and after clearing out the dirty battle trunks from the storage room for Jolene, an email from the first Glitz Pit champ is eventually sent to Mario's mailbox SP. It's an invitation to an exhibition match against him specially arranged by his sister. Mush has been hard at work training for his big comeback. He mentions pushing all of his limits, with the most punishing training regimen of his entire career, and he's finally seeing the results. And I'm glad we can finally see the results for ourselves in the Switch version. The Prince is truly a spectacle to behold. As a big fan of the classic N64 Paper Mario, I knew not to let my guard down as the last battle against the Toadmaster where he held nothing back was quite challenging. His fury allows him to transmute into a golden version of himself, exuding a powerful aura with 99 total heart points, the same amount as the final boss. Prince Mush, though, coming in with just slightly less HP, is far tougher than the Master at full strength ever was. Rather than a measly defense of 1, Mush has a whopping 6, the highest in the game. The only other enemy to come close is the Mooncleft with 5, but they have such little health they can be quickly disposed of by simply using a defense-ignoring item or special move. Mush, though, at 96 HP and shielded like a Toad tank, is going to take much more than that before he's taken down. The only way to crack open this mushroom of steel for punishment, who's immune to all status effects by the way, is to Super Guard. Unless you cheese him by going in with Danger Mario status and 50 Power Rush badges stacked. I also did this ridiculous thing where I fed Miss Mouse 20 hot sauces, and then for all the rest of her moves, I had her charge until she was capable of dealing 99 damage. It straight up skipped a phase. Getting back to Super Guarding though, it is an optional block the player can choose to execute during an enemy's attack by pressing B instead of A, the button pressed for a standard block right before their attack makes contact. The regular guard's timing is quite generous, and therefore useful as an easy way to soften blows by 1 point of damage, while the Super Guard timing is much more strict, requiring a near frame-perfect input to work, but when it does, it negates all points of damage, and, if the foe's attacking directly, they're hurt for 1 point. Super Guarding is a big risk, but if you practice enough and can manage to nail the action commands with regularity, it can prove to be a far better choice than the normal block. Nowhere in the game are you required to perform a Super Guard though. In fact, as a kid, I didn't even know it was a thing, so I went through the entire adventure without it. I like that the game has this mechanic seemingly designed with pro gamers in mind you don't have to engage with if you're the type who struggles with timing and doesn't want to bother taking the time to master it. This all changes with Prince Mush though, as we now have a boss with a phase in which Super Guarding is the only strategy. You see, you can render him temporarily vulnerable at any moment with this technique, but when the prince is low on health, he'll basically go Super Saiyan, as a fiery fighting spirit burns within him. And at this point of no return, he is invincible against every move in the game besides Super Guarding. He can easily KO Mario or any one of his partners through a barrage of attacks with numbers reaching far higher than even the final boss is capable of, while charged. Seriously, it is rare for a Paper Mario enemy to deal damage in the double digits. So believe you me when I say an enemy inflicting 67 points in a single turn is unheard of before now. After some shenanigans, I was even able to manipulate his damage output without cheats, so that he deals 495 damage in one turn. We're getting into the weeds now, but very quickly, I acquired more than one double pain badge due to a developer oversight. I'll explain what that is in the comments, which allowed me to equip 4 of them at once, activating Quintuple Pain Mario, aka Mario who takes 5 times as much damage. Then, I hid in the shadows with Vivian's Veil move while Mush was charged, so he'd get mad and charge again, before unleashing the strongest move the Paper Mario series has ever seen. If you can't Super Guard against his onslaught, you'll be swiftly knocked out if your total HP isn't very high and you've got no life insurance, aka life mushrooms left on your person. Sure, a lot of this raw power is likely the result of his new training. He's said to have come back better than ever. But the thing is, even if he was at half of his current strength back when he faced Rawk, the fight still would have been a cakewalk for him. The Hawk talks a big game, but let's be real. He's got 40 HP with 0 defense and boasts an attack power of 4. Yeah, he doesn't exactly fight fair, but he broke the rules during his bout with Mario and we took care of him no problem. What's the deal then? Well, I just barely said the match would have been a cakewalk, and that's the heart of the issue. Cake. Poisoned cake. Delivered to Prince Mush right before their brawl. Rawk openly admits to sending one to Mario, and the poison's so strong it either completely immobilizes your party member, who will scarf it down first, requiring Mario to take on the next fight alone, or Shell Shock over here, as he'll eat it instead if you choose not to indulge. Tattling Mush reveals that he's not a fan of cake, and Goombella wonders what the story is there. Some cake-based trauma in his past? This line heavily implies that he too ate a poisoned cake from Rawk right before their showdown. And then after losing, it would make all the sense in the world for Grubba, realizing that something's not right with Mush, to take the opportunity and force the weakened fighter into the empty ring so that he could siphon his essence. Macho Grubba is stronger than Rawk, of course, but not so much that Mush wouldn't be able to handle him normally. Grubba did specifically say that he had to make Mush disappear because he discovered his secret, though this could be explained by Grubba dragging Mush into the ring while unconscious to drain him, without revealing how, then hiding him like King K and Bandy Andy. But Mush woke up and saw the machine for himself, so Grubba had to slurp him up completely without a trace. Whatever the case may be, let's now move from sweet poison cake to savory glizzies to wrap things up today, as Gold Bob is planning a hostile buyout of the hot dog stand run by a pig. That's pretty morbid. But you can make it worse by saving a hot dog and choosing that to be the food item you give to this starving family in Twilight Town before the mother is cursed to transform into a pig. 2 of her 3 children will be horrified about their pigified mommy, but this one on the right asks if pigs are good eaten. Back to the non-little oink-like 3-dimensional pig that is Mr. Hoggle though, he's imported a special egg from an island in the south to make his famous spotted egg dog, but this rare egg contains a rarin'-to-go Yoshi, who avoids becoming a topping on a meaty masterpiece by jumping around until Mario saves him. Well, it's actually Goombella who does the rescuing, as I couldn't help but choose the "let there be hot dogs" option. I can't not pick the funniest one, I'm sorry. Mr. Hoggle is okay with surrendering his egg he paid shipping costs for, because there's not much market for cuisine that jumps anyway. It sounds like he hasn't had an experience like this in the supposed 30 years he's been in the hot dog game, so I'd like to think that no other eggs bearing baby Yoshis were turned into a delicious delicacy. The best party member so far, Egg, eventually hatches into a Yoshi Kid that can be one of 7 colors. I got a blue one I named Boshi after a certain Mario RPG character. All he needs is a 6 set of triangle shades. Come on, King K, let me borrow yours. This mini Yoshi was born into the world inside of a rough and tumble minor league fighting pit locker room, so naturally he's got a play-it-loud Nintendo-era personality. His first word was yo, and he wants to get out into that ring the moment he emerges. This is not the type of environment to be raising an infant, but neither is Rogueport, and anything's better than turning into a spicy snack that Bulb makes you backtrack twice for. If you think a child raised on violence is sad, in the next Dark Aspects of the Thousand Year Door, I'll be discussing the heartbreaking stories of the last couple of characters that join our party. One is the victim of heavy bullying from her own family, and the other, a victim of cruel fate involving the loss of family. There's also identity theft, which is not a joke, Jim, ghosts galore, and even capitalism that somehow finds its way to a cursed, desolate isle everyone gets shipwrecked on. Seriously, why are you making me pay for supplies? A big thank you, as always, to my Patreon members of the PK Love tier: Janssen, Tori, Pangake, Katie, Kathleen, Jennifer, Dat Barry, Captain Harlock, and Brian and Susan. I hope you'll join me next time. See you then.